Welcome back to Beauty Gains, episode 15. We are back for you guys. We took a little holiday hiatus. By the time you're hearing this, it will be 2021. Ooh. Happy New Year. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve, so we'll be out there, and then you guys will be hearing this a little later on. So bringing in 2021, we have a very special guest who I have been waiting for to come on for a very long time because she has a lot to offer for everybody. Courtney is going to introduce her as to this is why she's here.
Hey guys, Happy New Year. So this is the girl that taught me everything I know about makeup. She is my sister.
Don't make me cry already.
I've talked about her many times on this podcast, and I'm going to introduce Nikki Kasak.
Hi guys. I'm so excited to be here. I really am.
So me and Nikki met, oh my God, 10 years ago?
When you were 14?
Yeah.
14, yeah. So I did your makeup. Your mom and your sister brought you in to Nordstrom. I was working there at the time, and I've known your sister for a very long time. We've been friends for a while. And your mom brought you in to get your makeup done for, I think it was like a formal of some sort, maybe a freshman formal.
Was it prom? I don't know.
No, it was a formal.
Okay.
It was before prom, because I did all your prom makeups. Clearly.
She's like, I already know.
I mean, clearly, I remember.
I honestly think I was just buying makeup, and then you were just testing.
There was a pink look. We should actually recreate that look. It was like totally a pink eyeshadow with like shimmer, and I was just so inspired. Or maybe it was just buying makeup, and I sat you down, and I was like, I need to do her makeup. She's too pretty. She can't walk away.
I'm like, can't have her leave.
No, it was literally like, I always say this, but it was literally like a Kim and, Mario moment where I just looked at her and I was like, that's it. She's my muse. She is it. I'm going to be inspired by this beautiful face.
What do you guys call each other? When I remember when I was there, when you were doing her makeup, she did mine. Our first ever episode, you kept calling yourself something.
Muse.
No, something
Adobe?
from Harry. Yes, from Harry Potter.
Oh my god,
guys! She is my Dobby from Harry Potter.
I really am. And if you do watch Harry
herself to this,
if you have any Harry Potter fans out there, you understand the Dobby relationship. I am, for sure.
She always watches out for me.
Always, and I forever will. I'm like 100%. So overly concerned. I even said it to her this morning. I was like, she's like my little prodigy. Like, I literally look at her in the way I see myself at her age, and I'm like, if I could have given myself advice based off of my relationship, like if I was her at her age, what would I want to tell her? And that's literally our relationship. It's like everything I say to her is like what I would have told myself at her age, because I literally see her as like a mini me. But that's how much I love you.
She taught me everything I know.
So with that, we can kind of segue into that. I just popped into my head. You guys were talking about like a pink look that you did on her back when she was like 14.
How old are you now? I remember it. I'm 25.
How much do you think what you did then on her has changed
so much.
fashion, makeup wise and everything like that?
I have to say, and sorry to cut you off, but like I have to say this, like I don't think my career would be where it was. It is if it wasn't for her. Like, and she knows that.
Cry.
No, I know. I don't want to get this emotional.
It's funny because she'll have we all get in our moments where we're just kind of like, all right, I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again. And she'll, like with me, it's like doing family, like how many times do you want to actually do services with family, and like you're like, all right, I have a day off, like can I have the day off? It's like, well, hang out. And I'm like, do my makeup. And she's like, Court, I want to stay. I'm like, no, do my makeup.
I want to do your makeup.
And she's like, she's in a funk, and I'm like, do my makeup, and you're gonna thank me afterwards.
Literally, it's those times that like saved my career, because like I wanted to walk away. I mean, listen, we all have moments. As passionate as I am about what I do, I've been doing it for 20 years, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I feel like we all get super critical of art, especially something that you're divinely made. You're here on this earth to do. And I just think being a type A personality, like I would sit there and be like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I need to, and she would say that, and I'd be like, I'm burning my brushes, and that's it.
And do you know what it is too? It's because when you're an artist, you get so many people that this is the look I want. Like I've said multiple times, I want natural. Show me Kylie Jenner, Kim Kardashian. Okay, that's Botox, fillers, this, that, and the other thing, and then makeup. And then with her, it's just, I don't give her that. I'll just be like, what's trending right now? And I'll show her like looks that are trending, and I'm like, pick, I don't care, use whatever. Like we've done like green looks, blue looks. I put a pink wig on, and I'm like, let's do something fun. Now she actually got me into more natural, which it took her 5 years.
But I also feel like it's because
to get me to do that.
I've been saying this.
She's been saying for the longest time, let's do more natural. I'm like, no, I want crazy looks. I like this. You're really good. You're talented. Do these crazy looks on me. And then she did a natural look on me. I was like, I don't want to do crazy looks anymore.
You're like, I like how I look like this.
Well, you know what and this to the point, this is like what causes me to, like, I'm desensitized because I feel like I've been doing this for so long that I relate to the current, trend of makeup, but like I'm so old school.
Yeah.
Like I don't, as great as everything has evolved over the years as far as like our industry, it has evolved. And I'm the type of person, like I'm the type of makeup artist, I go back to beauty, I go back to red carpet, I go back to what we saw in magazines, you know what I mean? And like pretty makeup, not like avant-garde, you know, this trend. But, as a makeup artist or any career, you evolve and you go with what's, happening. That's part of what you do in any career, and I feel like that's why with Courtney, at least, it's like I feel like she gives me the opportunity to really challenge me in all areas, like to go back to basics, but then to also be like step out to step out of it
every now and then, but also to help you revive what passion. You like to do, your passion and your natural look. It's the same thing with being a trainer. I've been a trainer for 8 years now, and I'm the same way. I like way more basic things than the Instagram workouts that you see all the time, and just using all of those things, but being able to structure them in a different way, or this works better with this way, or this, and then something just happens, and then you get re-stimulated again, and you fall in love with what you're doing all over again. And I think that's a lot of things that go on with people nowadays is they're just getting sucked into what everybody else is doing, and then they're losing themselves, and then they're lost. Because
let me ask you, like, you don't think as far as fitness goes, like obviously with social media you get the haterade on like all areas, like people are like, oh, I'm into CrossFit and that's it, ride or die CrossFit, or I'm into weight training and the ride or die weight training. But then I feel like even in my own fitness journey, like it's evolved so much. Like I was big into weight training at one point, and then I went into Pilates. Like, isn't it okay to kind of like allow yourself to transition? I mean, isn't that part of the fitness?
So that's the whole thing is like, I tell people all the time, people always think that there's one way, and people get sucked into that one way, and that's with anything in life. There are either open-minded people or closed-minded people, and open-minded people are always going to benefit the most because they're willing to take in what other people have found works for them, and they might not be fully sold or bought into it, but they can take parts of that and be like, I still want to stick to what I know that I love to do, because if you love to do it, you don't need to go anywhere. But if you're trying to get the best of it, so that there shouldn't just be cardio, there shouldn't just be weight training, there shouldn't just be mobility. Everything is what's going to benefit you the most. So again, for me, it's not so much like you have to try different things. If you love something, fine, but you shouldn't be closed off to trying other things. Like I know for me, I used to be big into like bodybuilding. So I just posted something the other day where I have ripped up shoulders and arms, and I was like, I look like that 5 years ago, what the fuck do I look like this? But it's because now I'm more into strength training, so everybody's physique is different.
But you know what though, I feel like that normalizes, like I always go back to this, like it's normal for your body to fluctuate and go through changes. And I think when you're someone who's passionate about health and fitness, like your journey is going to be different. It's going to be hills and valleys, and and that's what's awesome about health, like health and fitness, is that you can change. Like you get it. Like I remember I used to follow a split, like when I was weight training, and I would change it up because I would get so stuck in that routine, and then it would stop motivating me.
Yeah, you get stuck in a plateau.
Like an accountability partner, like, you know what I mean? So, or a trainer, like you would say, okay, let's change this up or try something different, so that you keep that momentum going.
So that's what I started. A lot of people always talk about, I'm a trainer, I've been a trainer for however long, I've been a coach for however long, I've been lifting for however long, and I hit plateaus still. And I have Aunt who programs me now. Yeah, I can program myself, but I know that I hit such a motivational plateau, and people talk about all the time, discipline over motivation. Sure, I'm still disciplined to work out, but my motivation and my mindset to actually do it, I needed somebody else to step in and kind of help me. And I think that a lot of people don't like needing somebody else to be able to do it. They find it to be a weakness. It's not a weakness. If you need help with something or you need motivation to do something, figure it out. Because that's even as healthcare professionals or artists and things like that, you're always looking for motivation or inspiration almost. Even like you guys are much different. You're actually being artistic on people. Like her face is your muse.
Yeah.
But you could think about it the same way as being a trainer. Like their bodies, they want to be turned into a certain way. Yeah. It's not however long each look takes.
Yeah.
This is over a long period of time.
But it's you're seeing the transition anyway, and you're seeing it, and then that's your work.
Yeah, and you have to put all of the different things together. But going back to what started this entire thing was like her transformation back when she was 14 to now, and sticking up with the trends. How did you even fall in love with doing makeup?
Oh my gosh. This is like the third time I've been asked this question in 3 days, and it's so funny because like I never talk about it, but I never wanted to be a makeup artist. I was an artist. I actually drew and sketched faces when I was a kid, which I think is, I've always been really artistic. I was a dancer, ballet dancer, tap jazz, like from when I was 3 before I could even see. Like literally I was blind when they found out that I was it's the craziest story. But anyways, so I digress. I was an artist. I was always very artistic. I studied art all 4 years of high school, and I got into college, and a professor, my first year, I was studying political science. He looked at me and he was like, and I took an art major. I was an art minor at the time down in Monmouth, and I wanted to originally go to school for fashion, but my mom got super sick and life happens, things change. And that professor was going on a sabbatical, and I did a thesis, my art thesis, and I was the only one in the class to ace it. And I remember him pulling me aside and saying to me, he's like, you are not meant to, like, I thought I wanted to go into criminal justice or something completely like, whatever.
Opposite side of the spectrum.
Opposite. And he was like, no, he's like, you're meant to be an artist. And I got back up north and needed a part-time job and went to Nordstrom and got a job in makeup, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
So it's really profound how like, I just feel like God works in mysterious ways. Like, I had no idea. Like, I had no idea that this was going to be something, but it's fun, and it's organic, and I think at the time, back in that era, there was no makeup school, there was no, nothing. So I got my degree in art, in liberal arts, with a minor in marketing, and never went to beauty school. Yeah. And here I am.
And knowing her too, like with how much she's done and who she's worked with and all that she's done with her career and how humble she is, like people like in the beginning versus like even now too, like in the beginning people are like, wait, you're friends with her? Like you're friends with Nikki?
And mind you, if they only knew who I was, they like literally don't even see myself that way. Like it's the craziest thing. I'm like,
but like me and her, we both relate to that. Like, like we'll be out sometimes and like people will be like, oh my God, like I know you two from Instagram, and we're like, oh hey, like whatever. And, like we're super cool, have normal conversations and whatever. And they're like, oh wow. And she's just so humble, and like that's what like helps me just like, with my career too, because no matter who she's worked with or whatever, she will still teach anybody and like offer so much. Like I've worked classes with her where she's like, oh my God, I love you guys so much, and like whatever you guys like, call me please, like I don't care whenever. And it's just so humbling to work around people that just want to help others.
Yeah, it's just just gives like a testament to how passionate you actually are to what your art is and what your craft is. You're not looking for the recognition or the affirmation.
No ulterior motive.
Yeah.
I always say that. I say, in general, and especially with this, the generation, because I mean, not to age myself, but I am a little older, and I feel like, it's this generation that when you have an ulterior motive, you know what I mean? It's going to misdirect you. I always say like, pour yourself into something that you're passionate about. But we live in a world where social media kind of kills passion because it's comparison. No longer are you like passionate about something because you genuinely are innately passionate, and you lose that in the sense of like you scroll through your social media and you're like, but I'm not like that person or that person. That kills it, for a lot of people. And I just think, like, if you're passionate about something, you're doing it for the right reasons, not because so-and-so, or you know what I mean? Or I always say this to you, like just because somebody else is doing it doesn't mean you need to top it off or do it. Just do it because like it innately is something that draws you to that, whatever it is.
A lot of people too, like when we do classes, they'll be like, well, we don't have the following you have. That doesn't mean you're not as good.
I don't care about those numbers.
It doesn't matter.
I always talk about this when it comes to when I was over at my old gym. I was a fitness manager, so my job was to hire people. And it was the weirdest thing when like the younger generation started coming in for interviews and handing in their resumes, and it was how many followers they had was at the top of their resume. And I immediately cool.
Back,
I don't care about your following. I don't care about how many eyes are on you. Can you change people's lives? Is your motivation to change people's lives, or are you just here to get affirmation and attention for yourself? Because you won't last as a trainer. You won't last as any sort of service provider if you're not genuinely
100%.
And it just gets to your head.
And I feel like, to circle back on that, like my first job I've had many retail jobs. I mean, back in the day we had working papers. I worked at Steve Madden at 16. I worked at R&B and BB, and then got a job at Nordstrom when I was 18. And like when I got the job at Nordstrom, it was all about customer service, and it was all about, pleasing the customer. And I think that it was so ingrained in me that now it is so purpose driven. Like my whole career is about wanting to help someone. Like I've said it forever to you, and I'm saying it now. Like I've spent the beginning of my career, wanting to help women look beautiful, but now I want to help them feel it. And when you have that genuine passion about something where there's no motive behind it other than to help people, like this generation, like that is what we're here for. You could believe in God, you could believe in the universe, you can believe in whatever you want to believe in, but ultimately we are here to help one another. And in the times that we live in right now, I think it's so crazy because we're all against each other, but like there's one reason we're all here, and that is to come together and, you know what I mean? Like help each other.
Help each other.
We forget that,
all the time. So people, it's such like a dog eat dog world, and that's not how you succeed. I don't know if you've ever read the book The Go-Giver. No. It's like a very short book, and it's kind of story formatted, so it's not one of those like self-help books like, oh, number one, do this. It's like a storybook on this guy. I don't remember exactly what his job was, but it was a big like executive like job that was dealing with like numbers and money and all of this shit. And then again, if you go to read it, it's a pretty short read, but ultimately the theme of the book is the way to be successful is for you to not be selfish. It's for you to start from the bottom
and
build up, and not expect things from other people, and not be so manipulative, or I want you to lose so that I can succeed. It's I want you to succeed so I can succeed, and we'll both succeed together. And a lot of people miss that because it, like you said, with social media, it's such a huge comparison now.
It is.
So you're constantly looking at this person, you're like, oh, well, you did this, I'm going to do this, and I have this many followers, so I'm better than you. I could give a shit
Doesn't
less
matter.
about the guys always rag on me because we have another podcast starting, and they have like a list of people coming in, and I don't know who any of the people are, and they're super excited about them, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, I guess I have to get to know who they are. But for me, it's never been like a fame thing or who do you know. The only reason why I care about who I know is, are you helping other people? Are you like, are we in this together? Once I realized that people are just in it for something else,
reasons.
You don't last very long
we talk
anywhere.
about that. We talk about clout and about like all of that. And I just think someone's pure intentions, they will always surface.
And we're very good at like reading.
I think we spoke about this when Darren came on. As to, can you tell the difference when people are reaching out to you and wanting something from you, rather than
people? When I started working with, like, I mean, she's been working with a lot of TV people for a while, and even like big
but it's like crazy to me
too.
because like some of my TV personalities that I've been working with have been like around for 6, 7, 8 years, and when I say that, people are like, so like, wait, what? Because it's not prevalent on my media. And I think that's one of the biggest things for me, is because the relationship I have with those people mean more to me than my,
showing off that you're with
so
them.
like I don't see it that way. Like I just think, but then again, like I want to stay like I'm humbled in the sense that like I don't want to be prideful. Just because somebody like myself might not utilize that doesn't make it wrong if you do. It's just not innately not in my personality to be like, oh, look at this. You know what I mean?
And people don't realize too, like, you're friends with them and you build friendships with them. It doesn't matter how many followers they have, who they are, whatever. You have friendships with them. Like, I'll have people be like, oh, so like, what's going on? I'm like, okay, so when you guys come to me, and I've said this before, when you guys come to me and tell me your secrets, how would you feel if I went to another client and said it? You wouldn't like that. That's not who I am. This is why people come to me, because I keep it to myself. I'm friends with them to be friends with them, not for what they could give me.
I have a client that actually wanted to, she was like a TV personality, and she actually wanted to, she was getting like, there was going to be a producer that wanted to start a TV show, and I was going to be part of it. and it never aired. It never got casted. Everything happens for a reason. But one of the biggest things I always said was when they were casting and they were interviewing me, they kept saying, they were like, you keep going back to relationship. And it's crazy because every time they asked me a question, it would always be like either relationship with my client or relationship with myself or relationship with whatever. And she's like, I don't know why that keeps ringing in my head. And I'm like, and then she was like, yeah, it's, you know, in my mind goes back to what you're saying. Like what we're here for is your relationship with your clients, your relationship with what you're doing, your job, your future. Like that's the investment. It's not the investment of return. It's the investment that you're putting into, you know, the relationships you have with your clients. That's what matters, because the money, I always say this to my younger clientele, like, or the girls that I mentor, I'm like, the money's going to come. The money's going to come. The, you know, the success, if that's, you know, what you're looking at, you know, you can't, there's no litmus, you know, structure, I guess, to that dividend of like, okay, saying I've helped X amount of people. Like that's what we reap what we sow. That's what's going to give you, you know what I mean? What you're looking for inevitably, but because we live in a world where everyone does things because they want the quick fix. It's, nobody realizes it's the years of investment that you're putting into something. You know what I mean? That's really going to get you, or the reaping and the sowing of the relationships you have with your clients.
And the hard work that you put in at the end of it. If you just get something automatically, what do you actually have to feel for that? What do you actually feel good about that? You're just like, okay, everything is just going to come like this. So when it doesn't, it's even worse for you. So I would say people that work the hardest are always going to reap the most. And it's not because they are looking for something back from people. You could genuinely, I could go out there and train 5 people for free, and they will be with me forever, and I'll be changing their lives. And just them, other people seeing that, and them word of mouth. So again, it's not like
advertisement,
right? And it's not like, okay, I'm going to train you for free, but you have to bring in 10 other people for me, or I'm done training you. You should treat the people who can't afford you the same as the people that could afford you 10 times. Because those are people that need you the most. And what happens if they turn their life around and something like miraculous happens for them? You just changed someone's entire life. How much more good feeling can you get from having that much power to help somebody? And it's always just mind-blowing to me. I just can't stand being around people who are very like, me. Oh, I'm not going to train that person. They don't even have fucking $50 to give me. But that's just
going off of that though. I just started working with this girl that reminds me like of me, like with you. And like she booked like services and all that, and I did her hair and makeup, and we're just like talking and just going off of like what her goals are and all that, and just like we really just like hit it off. And then when it came down to like, you know, like owing money, I was like, I don't want your money. Like I honestly genuinely enjoyed your time. I tried new looks for myself to practice on, and you remind me so much of myself, and like I literally just made a new friend. And I said to her too, I was just like, I'm here for you with like whatever you need, because she like overall wants to, you know, she's studying to be an esthetician and like wants to learn makeup. So I sat there and I was talking through what I was doing, and it reminded me so much of me and her. And I'm like, you were put into my life to show me like what my and her relationship is. And I was like, you can't put money on that. You really can't.
One of the girls who I was training, again, some people, we talk about investing in yourself, and we talk about taking care of yourself. And one of my girls has been very consistent, and she's doing great, slowly getting there. But again, it's a huge lifestyle change for her. It's not one or the other. And it's Christmas time, and everybody has to buy a slew of presents. And she texted me the other week and was like, I don't have the money right now to train this week, so we're just going to have to start like next week or once I get paid again. I'm like, no. You're coming in this week and we're training because you've been so consistent. We're not going to, just because you can't afford one week, I'm not going to have you not come in. You're doing so well on structure. You're coming in. And then she's like, are you sure? And it's not even like a thing that you need. It's not even something that I need to reiterate to her ever again. She listens to the podcast all the time, so she's going to hear it. But I'll never have to bring up to her again, hey, remember when I let you
and I hate when people do
train
that.
for free?
I don't like when people
now
do
you
that.
have to now you have to pay me back. You have money, right? I hate when people do that. I even hate when you go out to dinner with people and you have like a friend. Me and my mom and my sister were talking about this the other day. Instead of just splitting overall, oh well, I didn't have. You guys both had 2 drinks. I only had 1 drink, so I'm not going to pay for that. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
But it's just like
calculator, the one that's sitting there.
I'm going to help you with this. And then like a month later, people are like, oh, well, you owe me this because I did this. You should never.
I don't like that.
No.
Yeah, no.
But it's just like an overall thing too. It's not.
And I don't like when people are like, all right, I'm going to do this nice thing. And it's going to eventually come back to be like, no, do it because you want to do it.
Do it because you want somebody else to feel good.
Yeah, you want to help them.
I have to tell you guys this, as a Christian, this is one of the deadliest sins. So God, this is the sin he hates the most, and it's pride. And it's like what rules are like the state of the world right now. You know, when you let your pride get in the way, and that all goes back to your inner voice. I think we live in a generation where we hide behind our pride versus just listening to that internal voice that tells you like, no, do this because it's the right thing to do. Because I feel like that inner dialogue that we all hear, there's people like yourself and Courtney that will listen to it and like kind of, you know, use it as a fruition. Like, okay, I'm going to do this because I'm hearing it and I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to trust it. But there's certain people that hear it, don't trust it, and say at pride, like, no, I can't do that, because they're scared. They're scared to give that service away for free because they're like, well, what if I need that money?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like hiding behind your own pride. But it's like the worst
and that's
thing.
kind of where like
God,
money
that.
like is like it's the root of all evil.
It really is. I think when you focus on the money, it just, I don't know. I just think your priorities show through the decisions you make. And if your priority is the money, you're never going to be, you know, as successful.
Yeah. Cycling back to that book again, if you guys want a good book just with a short story that has to do with this, when I read this book, literally it just like gave me affirmation that what I was doing was the right thing, that I wasn't being stupid and I wasn't being taken advantage of by people, because you know when people are taking advantage of you and when they genuinely are good people that you're trying to help. And like, you know, when like trends
healthy
like that
boundaries.
happen.
That's what it all comes down to, you know. Healthy boundaries.
Let's talk about healthy boundaries.
Ooh, yeah.
Let's talk about
healthy boundaries and not walls. We all live in we always say this. This is a good conversation to have, because I feel like with social media, you know, we have that grass is greener on the other side, and like, you know, we live behind this wall or this facade of what, you know what I mean? Like we've protected ourselves in a way, because we get to storyline our life, right? So like we get to share what we want to share, not share certain things, because that is the dialogue, you know, but it's a wall, right? So like, I feel like this generation, we hide behind that versus just having healthy, constructive boundaries. Like, no is okay, yes is okay. And knowing when to say no and when to say yes is a good thing. But I don't think many of us know that, like, right? I
mean, even with us, where I'll know when she does not want to do my makeup.
I flat out say no. Like today, she called me. She's like, I was like, no.
Yeah, and I'm like, you know what? I'm like,
she's
okay.
like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm not doing it today. That's it.
But versus a time where it's like she is in a funk and just is saying no because she just doesn't want to.
Difference.
So I'll know a difference and I don't push it. And I'm like, whatever, I don't care. I'll just do it myself. So
but knowing when to, I think it's okay. There should be a book out there, and there probably is. Like, it's okay to say no.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there definitely is.
Yeah, probably somewhere. But with boundaries, there's all sorts of boundaries. It's boundaries within yourself. It's boundaries with coworkers, with significant others, and everything like that. I know that you had posted when we put like those funny memes about periods, and you were like, no. I'm gonna pull it up unless you remember.
Was it recent?
Yeah. It was something about, and it's
relationships,
not just,
right?
Yeah, we'll get to the health part of it too. But I just wanted to read what it was, because it's talking about women's relationship, like with men and things like that. Where are you? Bear with me, guys. You know I'm a little weird.
Wait, hang on. Was it on my story?
No,
or?
it was on ours.
Yeah, the whole abstinence thing. Make a man date you and court you. Let's talk about dating
guys,
and
like just an FYI, I think when I wrote that, I had like 3 glasses of wine, and Courtney knows I'm not a drinker, so I was very avant-garde with this statement, and I forgive if I offended anyone, but like, ooh, okay, we're touching. This is happening.
We're gonna touch.
We are live. This is happening.
We're live about this comment because
honestly,
ooh,
but you know what too? This is where Nikki really comes into my life into play, of just even dating and, you know, just making someone work for dating me.
Oh,
yes.
And anything.
Oh boy, we're having this.
Yeah. I want to talk about it because I know so many women who write into me, or so many of my girlfriends need to hear the make a man date you, make him court you. Because I think that people forget what courting is. And I think
it's been demolished.
And you know what,
and I'm going to tell you, ladies, it's not their fault. It's ours.
Yes, it is.
It's ours.
We don't make them do anything
work
anymore.
For it. Nope.
It's
our fault.
Make them work.
Yeah, did you read what I said? Because I feel like we're now, or do you want me to just say what I said?
We could do both. So the first part is about birth control, which we'll cycle back to once we get into more of the health and fitness part of it.
Fitness, yeah.
But the second part, she was saying to get off of birth control, things like that. It's called
abstain.
Yes, it's called abstinence. Make a man date you and court you. Yeah. If women dated correctly, this wouldn't be an issue. Sorry, I could have probably worded that a little bit better. It's fine. I'm aggressive all of the time.
I know. I'm normally not.
How blunt you are, though.
I know.
It's great.
Well, I feel like, it's crazy because, I'm, like I said, I'm not aging myself, but I am going to say this, I'm a 37-year-old female who's single, never been married, no kids. And yes, so that alone, that statement coming from what I said could have a lot of, slack or like feedback in a negative connotation. But the reason why is because I've been there, done that. Yeah. So I'm not coming from a place of judgment. I'm coming from a place of experience. Yeah. And clearly I've walked the broken road, but I always say to, girls Courtney's age, I forget how old you are. And, I just...
30. I just turned 30.
I just say there's something, I think at a young age, if they only put into health, in high school, like what it means to really have, they say, okay, so protect yourself, physically from, STDs and, getting pregnant and all these things. But they don't talk about what it means to actually sleep with someone and give yourself to someone, and we throw that around like it's candy, you know what I mean, like it's whatever he was eating, like, you know what I mean, like we just like
we're talking about you right now, whatever candy you were eating,
but like, you know what I mean, like we just kind of make it so mundane. And I just think, and then what has happened is it's been a slippery slope. Like now you have all these girls that think in order to get a man's attention,
you have to sleep with them, and you don't.
Not even just sleeping with them, but it's sexualized. Like even the way we dress and we do our makeup and we do our hair. And a lot of it, like I'm a girly girl. Like I will wear a deep V and do my hair pretty.
You wear the shit out of that deep V. I see those pictures.
I will do it, but there's a time and a place for things. But once again, it comes down to your intention, right? Yeah. So I love feeling beautiful and sexy, and I think that's a God-given gift, right? He made us so that we would. We are the rib. We are made to please a man, visually. I think I always say this to some of the, marriages that I talk to, like, men and women, like, because I mentor sideway. And there's a lot of marriages that I come across, even when I'm talking to women that are engaged with their fiance. And I think it is a part of our responsibility as a woman to keep our man happy in the sense of, what's the word? Like being visually pleasing to him. Yeah. Like we should be attracted. Like once you lose that pride as a woman to like take care of yourself, that's going to affect the marriage. I stand behind that. So there is something to be said about, having integrity and having, putting emphasis in the way you look and taking pride in your visual asset, right? But don't mislead that for the right type of attention from a man, and don't give yourself to someone before he courts you. Like, first of all, let him work for it. Mm-hmm. Like I always say to Courtney, I'm like, literally, okay, you're running a race. Would you ever train? Okay, so for all my athletic people out there, if you picked up a 250-pound weight the first time and you didn't work for that, what would be the point working for it? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like if you were to a triathlon or a race, like if you would get on a treadmill and work for that. And then when you ran that finish line and you crossed that finish line, it would feel like success, right? Yeah. So here we are, like we work for all these things. So if you go home with a man the first night he meets you, what is he working for? Yeah. You know what I mean? And like, think about that. Like there was a book out there and I forget the name of the book, but me and a client were talking about it. And she said something like, would you give a random stranger $1,000 on the first night you met them? And the woman was like, no. And she's like, but you went home and slept with this guy for the first time.
Yeah. Like you gave him a big part of you.
A big part of you. Like girls, it's gold down there. Like it is gold. Mm-hmm. It is the best. It's gold.
And then a lot of girls will just think, that I've talked to, that they'll just think like automatically like, oh well, if I gave it to him, like, and it was great, he had a great time, like he's gonna call me. No, probably not.
Girls think that the better, I find that like girls think that being promiscuous or being good at sex is what makes men fall in love with you.
It's misleading. It's so misleading.
It just makes them call you back when they're bored and they want to have a good time. So
or call you when they're drunk.
Is that what you want? But like at the same time, I have this talk with a bunch of girls, and it's like being single and being empowered, and women are like, oh well, if I want to go and just have casual sex with the same guy over and over again, I should be allowed to do that. So like a lot of women think that, well, I just want to have sex. And then we've spoken about on podcasts before, you have to know yourself. Like majority of the time when you're going after a guy, you don't want him to just want to sleep with you once. No. What does that make you feel good about yourself at all?
I want to say like 9 out of 10 times I've ever spoken to a woman that has done that, like, and said to me like, oh, I just did it because whatever. I'm like, you feel empty the next day. Don't lie to me and tell me you don't.
Not for nothing.
You know what I mean?
You're going to catch feelings.
No matter what.
It's going to go nowhere.
No.
Or it's just a waste. It's a total waste. And you're just like, why did I even do that?
And it's a waste of time that you could be spent like alone with yourself and just doing things for yourself or with a friend, you know, for what?
The amount
to feel
of times
like crap the next day?
I've woken up from, you know, misleading relationships like that. Mm-hmm. And I've felt to myself like, okay, I thought in that moment, like I don't know. And you wake up the next day and you're just like, okay, this isn't what it anticipated or what I thought it would be. Like, I don't understand when I lost myself last night thinking that this was going to bring me something that, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm saying. Like, when I made that comment, I wasn't coming from a place of like, you know,
that you're trying to be like the Virgin Mary.
No.
You like, I don't want to do anything.
And I will say this, like, it took years for me to understand that, like, what I'm saying and what I preach, well, not preach, but I do in a way preach, or what I say now is like, there's nothing wrong in being a sexual being, like we are, right? There's nothing wrong in owning your sexuality. Like there's nothing wrong in saying like, I enjoy it, but to preserve it, to have preservation around it and to protect it, because it's too easily given away. And I just think as women, we should protect it a little bit more, you know? Like, what were we gonna say?
And I think that I know I go a lot of women who I talk to, and we've spoken about podcasts before, a lot of my girlfriends are very sensitive, and we're all sensitive. It doesn't matter how tough you are. It doesn't matter if you're tough as shit, have exterior up, but you are a sensitive person. Guys are sensitive too, but women, like you said, there are truths about things. Like women should be pleasing to
I feel like it's taboo. I think that we all struggle, right, with it, but because of judgment, because everyone walks around going like, she sleeps with like all these guys, whatever the case, right? So like no one wants to present it in that way, but yet we all struggle with it, you know? So it's taboo to talk about it, you know, which is, and I'm going to say this, guys, because I feel like if any of my family ever catch this, I want to make sure that I do state that I did take a vow of chastity 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. So it's something that I chose in my adult life to want to protect. And in order for me to make that choice and to kind of evolve from where I was to where I am now, you know, things had to change, but I had to make that choice. You know, we talk about mind, body, and soul, and health, mind, body, and soul, right? So not just what we look like on the outside, but health on the inside, health spiritually. Like I needed to step away and get to know my own worth and my own value. But the only way I was going to understand that is if I stopped putting it in somebody else's hands, you know? And I just think going back to the dating aspect of this is that women in general forget that that's the guy's MO. Like he's going to date you because inevitably he is, you know, men are men. And not to say that that's the only reason he's dating you, but it is the golden ticket, you know?
And they also know that that's what you're looking for. Yeah. So if it's no like skin off their back to be like, yeah, she's my girlfriend. But then
do you know how many successful relationships would have occurred if you just didn't sleep with them the first night? Yeah. Or the second night?
If you got to know them.
Yeah.
And too, you kind of shot yourself in the foot as to that person. So this is the thing about like you were saying, you wake up the next day, you're like, why did I think that was going to be a good idea? You fall in love with somebody like when you meet them. You're like, the idea of song. Right. The idea of them. You fall in love with the idea of what people
could be
give you at first, like your banter's fun, he makes you laugh, he like gives you attention but not enough attention, you're like, oh, he's like, all of these superficial things you see about this person, you meet them, and in 4 hours you're like, I haven't had a nice conversation like this with somebody in years, and this must be it. It's just like you think that you're having an epiphany with this person in front of you, and you're like, what could go wrong? And then you wake up the next day and you're like, you're not even speaking anymore. All of that connection that happened the night before, you can't even say good morning to each other because you feel super awkward, and then you realize you're like, fuck, I fucked up. I like jumped the gun on that. And we do it all the time. People fall in love so fucking quickly with people.
Well, I just think that respect is given where it's received. So the issue is, as a man, like there's been so many times, and I always say this to even like all the girls that I talk to, like the young girls that I mentor, I'm like, think about that. So a guy likes you, he's feeling the same way, and then you go home with him, and then it's like the respect is out the door. Like no longer can he respect you because, girlfriend, you don't even respect yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you did, you would hold yourself so high up, and you would have never made that decision. And it all goes down, once again, it goes down to what my ending point was going to be, which is, you know, the relationship you have with yourself will mimic every relationship, whether it be friendship, boyfriend, mother, daughter, you know, husband, whatever the case may be. Like, if you respect yourself, people are going to meet you at the level of you where you respect yourself. So if you respect yourself this much, that's where he's meeting you. Yeah. And it's your friends, it's everyone, clients, it's everything. Yeah. But if you hold yourself here, so you have this, go back to that storyline. You're out at a bar, you meet this amazing guy, right? Pre-COVID, obviously. And you meet this amazing guy, and you guys are sitting there having this amazing conversation. And then you say to him, all right, you know what, so nice meeting you. You go home with his boys, and you're going home with your girlfriends. You're like, oh my God, that guy was great. That's great. He goes home with his fellas, and he's like, yeah, you know, let's take more shots. I feel like I met the one. And now you guys separate, right? Mm-hmm. Now you're on this like natural high of like, I just met this awesome person, and you allow that to fester. It's part of that race, right? So like you're doing deadlifts or something, mm-hmm. right? And you get to like 140, and then you get to like 250. It's like
you keep going back to it,
right? So it's like any dialogue in life, like it's anticipation, you know? And like when you kill that anticipation, it's like squandered. So then the next day you wake up and you're like, it's over. Like, but why? Like, you know what I mean? I think that, like, once again, it goes back to that, you know, respecting yourself, respecting where, like, being patient, something that I feel like a lot of this, you know, a lot of us aren't. You know, we want that end result. We want to have the six pack or whatever. Like, no, there's something to be said about the effort that you put into each stage of wherever you are, whether it be even wellness, fitness, makeup, career. Like there was a time where I was 5 years in with my career, or 10 years in, and I look at each increment, and I wouldn't be 20-year veteran, the artist I am today, if it wasn't for that 5-year increment or that 10-year increment. Like, think about that in a relationship. Think about that when you're at the bar with the guy going like, I can't wait for that moment that I'm going to be intimate with him. Yeah. But tonight's not the night. No. Mm-hmm. Not tonight. And you want to make Satan, not today.
Not tonight, Satan.
No, not tonight. No.
But with it, like we've been saying after we just said that now. Yeah. But it's seeing that if that's even true for a longevity. So like, you had a good time with him that night, but maybe the next night he's not as drunk, he's not as funny, he's not as charismatic, or when you see him sober, he's like totally different person. Or even when he was sober there, like you have to wait and see how all these people are in different aspects of life. You can't just be like
friendship, which we've talked about.
We always talk about falling in love with a human as they are to the core, rather than just what that person has to offer.
But in order for somebody to fall in love with you, you have to love yourself. Right. See, the issue is that like it's that respect bar, because the thing is, if you don't respect yourself, how can somebody else respect you? Right. And even like I've had a lot of, I always say this, I'm going to write many books, but one of them might be the like monologues of a makeup artist and all the love stories I've heard throughout the years. And it's one of my favorite things. No, but it's really, it's such a great, like I have to say, I get chills because I love, that's one, and all my trials know this, like all my girls out there that might listen to this, like all my brides, you all know it's my favorite thing to hear. It's like, how did you guys meet, your love story, whatever. And there's been many that I've actually denoted and said to me, like, I've slept with them the first night and everything was, you know what I mean? But, and I'm going to say this, girlfriends, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's usually those girls that end up having issues in their marriage, down the road. And I'm not saying that the success rate isn't possible, but I'm just saying, like, you hear story, you know what I mean? Like, you have to set the bar. In order for a man to respect you, walk in with that respect, and that will trickle out throughout the relationship. But friendships, everyting, client relationships, everything. It's not just
and you see how much somebody will work for you too. Like, let's say like you make it known, like, no, like,
it's boundaries.
Obviously you guys kiss, whatever, pre-COVID, and you guys like kiss, whatever, and all that, and you know they're trying, and you're like, no, and you make it known, like, no, you're gonna work for it, and then if they don't try afterwards, bye, you gotta go.
But even like rates, like we talk about like pricing or like client relationships or it's boundaries. It goes back to that boundary mindset of like, okay, so if you're gonna sell yourself, like, so if you're like a Mercedes and you sell yourself at like a Nissan price, like how is somebody gonna
know your value?
Are you a lemon? Like, you know what I mean? Are you a lemon? I mean, I want to understand what's going under the hood. You know what I mean? Do you even like, how is your engine in there? You know what I mean? Like, don't sell yourself short, you know? But the thing is, a lot of us do, because once again, it comes down to the relationship that we have with ourselves. Do you value self? Do you love yourself? Like, love yourself first, and then everything else will kind of manifest and, you know, grow from there. So
it's love yourself, and you have to love who you are. You have to know who you are, and that's why.
Ooh, you hit that on the nail on the head. You have to know who you are.
Yeah.
But does anybody know who they are because of the world we live in?
But we're always changing too, and we're always growing, and you need to know what you've learned from like the past and like grow from that.
I don't know why, but when you just said that, like a scene from Bridesmaids just popped into my head.
One of my favorite movies.
I can't remember what it was, but you were like, we're ever changing, and something just clicked into my fucking head. I can't remember it now.
I love Bridesmaids. I want to watch that tonight.
I can't remember what it was.
Wait, I have to say this because it's the end of the. Well, now they're going to be watching this, right, or like listening as the new year.
They do.
Okay, but this is one thing that I have a counselor, and I call her. It's like, I don't know if any of you guys ever read Tuesdays with Maury. It's like one of my favorite books. It's a short read, very short read, but I call her my mentor, and I'm a big believer in counseling, not so much therapy or psychiatrist, but counseling, having like an older mentor. That's why I love mentoring so much. But one of the biggest things when I was struggling with knowing my self-worth and knowing who I was and kind of dictating or like defining it was, she would say, like, if you had to write down like who the perfect Nicole was, like if you had to like paint yourself a picture of like who you were and how you would value yourself, like write down all those attributes. So like, I'm giving, I'm caring, I'm loyal, and like stick to that format. Do you know what I mean? Because we get derailed because of comparison or what we see on social media. But like, if you actually can define yourself, like, you know, when you look up a word in the dictionary and there's like words to describe that, like almost do that. It's a great like New Year's resolution to maybe do with your girlfriends, you know, obviously now that we're doing things a little more intimate this year, but like instead of a mood board, actually define yourself. Like, who are you? Right.
And that's
like,
and even with finding a partner, I find that we keep talking about this mystery man that I started seeing, that it's been however many months now, and it's, does that person bring out
the best in you,
that list for you? So for me, since from growing up, we keep talking about you used to be a type of way, and now at this point you decided to be celibate, and there's all things that you go through. And I know that for my life, the beginning of my life was real rough. I let people use me for whatever they wanted to use me for. I had zero fucking self-worth or self-confidence. And just because you're like that right now doesn't mean that you can't turn it around, because I was the most insecure human being. I had zero value. I literally was like, I haven't had a boyfriend for over a year. And like, that to me is embarrassing. How could I be this person that everybody looks up to? But I've had such an insecure and low past when it came to value, that now where I'm at, people look up to me and they're like, I want to be as secure and confident as you are. I'm like, it took a lot of work. It took a lot of years of doing the wrong thing to now have that list of the person that I want to be and the person that I won't stand not to be anymore. I'm not going to have that low value anymore. I'm not going to feel that way about myself, because how am I supposed to be successful if I can be this successful and help all these other people, why am I allowing myself to be at such a low standard?
Yeah, but there's I feel like I need to say this to you, because, and I don't know if this is where the conversation needs to go or would go, but like the way you're great, like the way you see your clients, like we forget that we need to show ourselves the same grace that we show others. So like the same forgiveness. Like, do you know how many times I've had to wake up, you know, on a bad day or like, and look at myself and say, okay, Nick, I forgive you. Like I forgive you for messing up last night or for doing something that maybe I knew wasn't pleasing. Because then instead of beating myself up, I would take it and use it constructively and say, well, it's not going to happen again. And if it did down the road, I would still show myself the same grace. Now, if it was a repetitive pattern where I was doing it over and over again, but like all I'm saying is we have to be more forgiving of even ourselves in those moments, so growth can happen. Right.
And that's the biggest thing, is like, you accept that this happened in the past and you're like, okay, now I'm going to learn from that, rather than just keep divulging and beating yourself up that you're a bad person. You're not a bad person. You just had bad experiences or you made bad choices. But you as a core shouldn't beat yourself up about it. Your past is your past. You have to keep moving on from that.
Mistakes don't define you.
Right.
You know what I mean? You get to make that choice every day on what's going to define you.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And then just having, like you said, that list of the attributes that you would like to be your best self.
How you visualize yourself.
Yeah.
So like if you look at yourself and you're like, okay, so Courtney, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like what, and it not visual, like you know what I mean? You have to understand, like, these are things that like make you to your core who you are, so that when you veer off that pendulum or you start to feel like you're going off course, you're like, nope, this is who I am. What do I need to do to start to kind of redefine myself or go back to that center part? You know what I mean? To that list
how do
of
you
things.
center yourself again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I like that whole list thing, especially because this is going to be one of our, it's the first episode of the new year.
You know, from years of counseling, one of the biggest things that I thought was so different than like therapy or like, you know, psychiatrists or whatever, because talk about trauma, you know, I've been through some things myself. And I have to say that one of the best advice I ever received was, in modern like way of thinking is like, you forgive and you forget. And I think that that's really wrong, you know, because I think with us and the way we view things and why my way of counseling is like, you forgive, but you don't forget.
Right.
So you shouldn't forget, but you want to, because you want to remember. You want to remember that, how it made you feel, right? So even going back to forgiving yourself, like you want to remember how that decision made you feel. Like you don't want to, you know, forgive and move on, because then it's like you're not going to remember that pain and you're going to make the mistake again.
Yeah.
The idea is to forgive and remember, so that way you remember it and you're like, I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's like when people are like, oh, I drank too much last night, I'm never going to drink again. And then they remember how they felt.
Yeah.
They're like, I feel like shit. I never want to feel like that
again.
Like I know on the holidays when I eat too much sugar or desserts, I'm like, I know the next time I pick up something sugary, I'm like, I was sick to my stomach that night. I'm not doing this to myself
again. But what about
again.
what about doing, okay, so I always say this, and this is like a great conversation as far as like, what are you doing in interim? So now you made the mistake, right? So you made the mistake of overindulging or, you know, sleeping with that guy last night or whatever. What are you going to do to not make that mistake again?
Right.
And I think, once again, using it constructively. So getting up the next day and saying, okay, well, what was my trigger? Like, why did I go home with him? Was it because I was looking to be validated? Was it I was feeling insecure in that moment? Was I harboring a feeling that wasn't healed by an ex-boyfriend? You know, is it daddy issues? Is it, you know, which is fine because many of us, like 9 out of 10 women deal with daddy issues, you know? What was it that caused me to make that decision and go back to that trigger and then figure out a way to fix it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not ignoring it and being like, oh, I'm going to be fine. Like if I overindulge, like, okay, so next holiday, like, how will I not overindulge? Maybe not starving myself all day. Maybe eating like a banana or something before dinner.
Or
so
already
I'm
like
not
picking out what you're going to eat for dessert and not going past that.
Well, not
like
even
that.
like understanding what triggers you and what causes you to overindulge or do whatever it is.
What led up to that made that happen.
Yeah. Those are ways of dealing with that, you know, decision or whatever decision I don't want to say bad decision, but whatever is causing you to feel some type of way.
But I think that's a good thought process because like you said, we do bad decisions and then we make excuses for ourselves. And we're like, oh, well,
it was because
I only did that because I drank too much, or I only did that because it's like, no, you didn't act that way because of something. No. You acted that way because of the
drinking too much, like drinking too much. You did the drinking was the like another layer of the trigger. Like you wouldn't be drinking that much if something else wasn't bothering you or wasn't behind it.
Right.
So what's causing you to drink too much? Go home with the man last night, overindulge, over sugar, you know, eat sugar. Yeah. Like what's causing that? You know?
I think that again, what you said with the reflection as to what made me make this decision is really good because again, we just make excuses. Oh, I just felt like doing it. No, this is a reason why it's a reason why you felt like doing it. You felt shitty, you felt good, you felt empowered, you felt something that led you in order to make that decision. And that's what you need to be more conscious about. It's not how you felt afterwards and how you're going to take care of yourself afterwards. It's preventative. It's not treatment afterwards kind of thing all around the border. So we indulged a lot on that. I do want to get into more health stuff with you. Start with pretty much
my health journey.
Your health journey.
My health journey. So it's funny because my health journey actually started because of my fitness journey. So, oh boy. Okay. So basically, I joined my first gym when I was 14, so not many people know this about me, but I've always been a fitness junkie.
Yeah,
so I was a dancer my entire life. And when I got to high school, I actually didn't make the cheer team or the dance team. So my mother was like, well, you need to do something with this. And I have really bad knees because joint issues. I was a ballet dancer, so I couldn't run. So yeah, there was that, and I wasn't really athletic sport wise. So I was like, I got to go to a gym. So I started lifting at a very young age. And, fast forward, I think in 2017, I was working with a trainer at the time, and I wanted to do a fitness competition. And I was working with a health coach, and I was having a lot of like enzyme issues. I'm sure you could probably know about. So your pancreas, right? Yep. So like I was on the bro diet, and I was doing, the what is it? Chicken and broccoli and rice, right? And we were noticing that I was getting really inflamed. Like I was having a hard time breaking down certain food groups. And I've always had digestive issues my entire life, from like as long as I could remember. And so I decided to go to the doctor, and long story short, they had found, through an annual checkup with my gynecologist and other doctors that I was going to, because I was trying to figure out, is that hormonal? Like, what is this? They had found a 10 centimeter cyst in my left ovary. Now, I had been on birth control when I was younger for a very long time, about 7 or 8 years. And I did have cystic ovaries. I never was diagnosed with like PCOS or anything like that. But this was in my history. So when they said they found a cyst, I was like, okay, it's a cyst, But I didn't realize it was as big as it was. So a 10 centimeter cyst is pretty much the size of a cantaloupe.
Oh, wow.
And your ovaries are very little. They're like the size of a walnut. And so it was actually pushing my uterus over. And so they were like, we need to do emergency surgery on you, like stat. And I run a bridal business. I was like, I got brides, no one can do my job for me. So can we wait until December? But like, glory to God. God is good. I randomly had that December off, which was so weird because usually even in New Jersey, like we're still busy in December. So
winter weddings.
With winter weddings. So I luckily was able to postpone it, and I was really sick that November. And leading up to it, she was like, there's a chance you might need a partial hysterectomy. And that was something that I had to really give to God, because I wanted to have babies. I was 33. I was young. I was never married. I just had gotten out of a long-term relationship that, I was thinking I'm going to meet the man of my dreams. He's going to want to have babies. Like, what am I going to do? But long story short, I did decide to do, my family was like, don't do it. If they find cancer, like we'll take you to Sloan Kettering, like everything will be fine. But something in me, God, listening to that voice, was saying like, no, sign the document. Like if they do find something, just have them remove it and we'll deal with the repercussions after. And so I saw, a lot preceded up to that choice, but that day I decided to do it, and thank God I did, because they did end up, so they cut me as a C-section. They ended up having to do, it's not really called a full partial hysterectomy, so they did remove an ovary and my fallopian tube on my left side, but I had lost a baby when I was 26 years old. So going back to like the sex talk, I was in a long-term relationship. Me and him had accidentally got pregnant. I had actually taken the Plan B pill and still got pregnant. Yeah. And I'm not proud of that, because as a Christian, like that was before my walk with Christ, but it was a decision I made. And, I had taken the Plan B pill, and it was crazy. It was like a luck of the draw. Like, how did I still get pregnant? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? It took it 4 hours after the mistake happened. Right. And even that alone, I didn't realize I was pregnant up until 8 weeks, and I had needed emergency surgery for that. But that surgery caused so much scar tissue on my right side that when my doctor went in to remove the cyst, she saw the scar tissue and decided to kind of remove that. And thank God for that, because they ended up they looked at my appendix and they did an emergency appendectomy, and they found out that I had a small carcinoid tumor that was in my appendix that never would have went diagnosed unless if I weren't in there. So like, it was crazy how like everything led up to that. Like the worst things, like losing that child that I still to this day, you can see it physically. Like I can't even talk about that loss without getting emotional, or like, you know, that led to, they would have never have found it.
That you had cancer.
Yeah. So like, technically it's crazy because like with my a carcinoid tumor, it's a very slow growing tumor. So it's a very, it's like a benign malignancy. Like if there is a tumor you're going to have, it would be a carcinoid because, you know, it's a very, I don't want to say non-cancerous cancerous tumor, but like it's a very slow growing tumor. So it would have taken years before it metastasized and maybe went to my colon and like other things. But yeah, I feel very blessed and fortunate, and like God is good. You know, I still see an oncologist every 6 months, but it's why I take my health very seriously. And it was crazy because like I said, I was going to do a fitness competition. Yeah. Like I was weight training, I was doing all these things. And if it wasn't for my health journey and like that process, I don't think I would
have never found it.
But like even now, like fast forward, like, you know, the first time I met you, like we were talking about like, you know, digestive stuff. And I was just telling you about the cleanse that I was doing at the time, which is a parasite cleanse. You know, I'm very big into naturopathic ways of healing your body and homeostasis. I think our bodies naturally are inclined to want to be in a state of comfort. And whenever it's not, you know, cortisol levels, you know, obviously overtraining or overworking out or eating a diet that's not good, you know, whole food, plant-based, you know, diet, eating a lot of sugar, things like that, our body will go out of whack, hormones, things like that. It's so important for you to take care of yourself and know that it's not a number on the scale. It's not like, it's your relationship with your body, your health. Like put that first. You can train, you can do all those things. That's great. But when you're doing things that are offsetting that, like say you eat like the women that I talk to that eat like Monday to Friday, great. And then they go out and they binge drink on the weekends and like shove their face with burgers. I'm always like, there's the pendulum. Where is this? You know, like
there's one extreme or the other.
Yes. Like I was that girl that like, I didn't have a good relationship with my body, and as healthy as I was, and I loved the gym and I was always so active, and I was always into health and fitness and all of that. I didn't have a good relationship with food. I didn't have a good relationship with myself or with training. It was that myriad of like all or nothing. And holidays were always freaky to me because I was so into health and fitness, and then I would get in front of like a plate of cookies and not be able to stop eating them, you know. So I speak from experience in the sense of like when I'm so passionate now about like showing women that like focus on your health, and when you put the focus on that, wanting to nurture yourself and be healthy, all those decisions will circle that versus a number on the scale, or you know what I mean? Like I don't know.
No, you're making perfect sense, and it just brings a lot of examples into my mind as well. As a lot of women try to kind of hide it or pretend like, no, I'm doing good here, so I'm okay here. And a lot of women are just uneducated as to what it is, because we just think of fitness and nutrition as an aesthetic thing, and it's not an aesthetic thing. And that's where like this whole new like revolution of like you can't body shame people or you can't fat shame people.
Oh my God. And I get the worst. Like I literally said it to my aunt this morning. Like when I tell you, I get the worst comments on my social media to the point where I'm like deleting them. I'm like, you wouldn't say half this stuff to a girl that was a little bit heavier set, but to someone who's thinner, like eat a double cheeseburger. People don't even know me, and they're like in my,
and they don't know what you've been through.
No. And the weirdest thing is like, if you did, even like if you heard what happened the past year with my health, and then and then you look at my body, you would be like, okay, that makes sense, right? But like we are so quick to judge, and it's like a lot of it too is inflammation. Like I always talk like we look at weight, but like I'm no longer inflamed. I was inflamed for a really long time,
and that's what makes you feel like shit.
But the thing is that also causes water retention, things like that. And it's like I had lost some weight, and I would say to my friends and family, like I was dealing with a lot of gut inflammation, a lot of inflammation that were harboring around my thighs and my belly. And like, it wasn't so much weight that I lost, but it was the inflammation from gut issues.
I know we were talking about the parasites and stuff.
And so like I would go to doctors, I would go to gastros that were, I can never say that name, but I'm just going to say gastro. So I would go to like all these specialists, and they would say to me, okay, they're going to put me on all these like glorified medicines that cause cancer or do all these things to put a Band-Aid on the problem. But I was so hyper focused on healing myself and saying, I'm not going to go down that road. I don't want to take a pill. Like, I want to heal whatever's going on in here. And sure enough, like, even my doctors, my oncologists are like I was dealing with anemia issues and iron issues. And I always say, you know, it's like, I feel like I'm a Jehovah's Witness. Like, do you know your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ? Like, I always go back to my Christianity, but I did hear the voice of God say to me, like, you need to go vegan. And I was like, really, God? Because that's funny. Because my iron and my anemia is like the exact opposite of going vegan. Yeah. But something was telling me, and sure enough, when I worked with a naturopath, I had an amino acid deficiency that causes me to not be able to break down animal protein properly, right? So knowing this and doing the knowledge and reading books, I did a lot of reading, you know, when I got sick. And I fed myself with knowledge, because knowledge is power. And I literally was like, okay, I'm gonna go plant-based. Let's just see how this goes. Sure enough, 6 months later, did I lose, you know, a few pounds? But when I saw my doctor, he's like, I don't know what you've done, but your white cell count jumped from a 4.1 to a 5.2, which is like unheard of, right? So it normalized, which a low blood cell count is not good for people who've had a history with cancer. Right. And I was no longer B12 deficient. I was literally normal B12, mind you, completely plant-based vegan, okay? And my anemia, they wanted to put me on an iron drip. Yeah. And it goes back to, I'm eating the right foods.
For yourself. And that's what people don't understand that's the biggest thing is people will come in and ask me, well, what do you think about keto? What do you think about vegan? What do you think about intermittent fasting? I'm like, everything works differently for people.
I was doing keto before, in February. So I was HIIT training and I was doing keto, but they checked my cortisol and for my body type. So here's my thing. I know there's mesomorph, all those body
ectomorphs,
types.
Mesomorphs.
Yeah. And I don't know how much I would believe in so much that, but to your point of body, everyone has different bodies, self-acceptance, that needs to be a thing. Everyone's built differently, right? My body type, I was doing F45, I was addicted, doing it 6 days a week. I'm psycho. I love fitness probably just as much as you do, not looking, once again, different body types. But I was loved it. And I was doing keto because cancer feeds off sugar. So and before I got sick, the person I was working with, because I was having all those enzyme issues with certain carbohydrates, he was go keto. So I was doing keto before keto was even the cool kid thing to do. And I literally, but I was back in February, I was doing it more plant-based where I wasn't eating a lot. Well, keto really is moderate protein. You're not supposed to eat the amount of protein that a bro diet would have you. But I was doing keto and my numbers were off crazy. I guess the amount of saturated fats that I was eating, even though it was your omega-3 and 6 ratio, whatever, it was not good. So there is something to be said. I don't know keto long term, but here's my thing, girls. And for all the fitness junkies out there, get your blood work done.
You need it. People start off. People will take BMI, body fat percentage, but nobody takes their actual levels.
Go for your annual physical. I say to everyone, I'm go for your annual physical. It is up to you. Whether or not you want to pursue any sort of. Because for me, even though I walk in a very holistic mindset, I still see modern doctors. So I still see my oncologist. I still see my gastro. I still see my gyno. I still go. I was there at I see an oncologist, and a month later I was still in my primary's office getting my blood work from my physical, from my regular physician. And it is so imperative to get your blood work done annually, so you know your own levels, know your body, know how, are you deficient in vitamin D? Are you, and if you're someone who has high, what's the thing if you're eating a lot of fats, not cortisol levels, but
serotonin.
There's something that if you're eating too much it's not your triglycerides. Triglycerides are if you're eating a lot of processed foods. So but knowing your blood work will be able to say, okay, so keto isn't for me, you know?
And that's what people don't know is that they're all different fad diets, but they're just thinking about weight loss, fat loss, and aesthetics.
The outside, the aesthetic.
The part about it that we were talking about before is people fat shaming or skinny shaming or things like that. I remember, I don't know if anybody knows who Jillian Michaels is. She's very popular.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. But she was being shamed. Yeah.
She was being shamed, but she also came back with something that I thought that I was not that I know her or that she gives a fuck that I was proud of her for it, but
she does, I'm sure.
But
yes.
it reiterates the fact that, like, she said that we have got to stop doing this whole body acceptance things for people who are morbidly obese.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not okay.
It's not us saying you're fat and you're disgusting and calling you out for that. You're unhealthy. So everybody that keeps changing, like, runways and billboards to these women or men who are morbidly obese, no girl should be looking up to that girl and being like, I want to look like her, because it's not that she looks disgusting or that she's a bad person to look up to. You're so unhealthy.
Yeah, but then there is a parallel to that. So my thing is, like, okay, for instance, like somebody could say, okay, you're a hypocrite because you're gonna, for me, like a lot of people will look at me and be like, you're so thin. But my thing is, everything's fine. My hormone levels are fine. Like, my health is fine. Like, I mean, God willing. Do you get what I'm trying to say? But then there's also different body types. Like, you know, I was built this way.
Yeah.
You know, I actually have a genetic disorder called Marfan's. If you look it up.
You have Marfan's?
How do you even know what that is?
Because I went to school for athletic training. We have to learn all these different disorders and stuff like that.
So I have thoracic. That's why, like, people say your chest cavity is so
sunken in.
No, mine's out because you either have the sunken in or sunken in or out. But that's why my hands are super big. Like,
that's so crazy that you have Marfan's syndrome. Nobody understands when I say Marfan's. Because normally you think about
Lincoln.
Like lurch-looking people.
Yeah, President Lincoln has it. So, like, and when I say that, I
just got so nerdly excited. No, like, you have Marfan's.
I'm nerdly excited because you know what? No one knows what it is. But when I say that now, looking at me as a trainer and everything, you know, does it not make sense?
Yeah,
it does. Because the thing is, you could have genetic dispositions to it. So, like, I may not have it to the capacity, but I'm legally blind. You know, I have the.
How's your heart?
So I had a heart murmur. They checked my heart. So it's President Lincoln had it, you know, and you have a shorter lifespan and all these things. No, if I literally at the end of the podcast, if I showed you my back, you would look at it. I'll show you a picture of my back. You would be like the curvature and all of it, like the spinal issues that I have and all of that. And, like, you know, it's a connective tissue disorder. So, like, that's why my eyes are really bad. But, like, when people look at me and they don't, because if you look at people with Marfan's and you put me next to them, it makes sense as to what, but it makes sense as to why I'm tall and lanky, right? So I always say, like, it's my body type. And going back to that, what we feel like we have to fit this standard, or it's like body shaming and all of that. Another thing I want to touch on is it's okay. Like, there are some heavier set women that are healthy and
that's
have great.
That's the thing is, like, I have women who I train who
just are built that way.
But all of their levels, they'll come in. All their levels are perfectly fine. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to sit here and say, like, I'm fat shaming women. If you're unhealthy and your levels are terrible, you shouldn't be praised for what you're doing. If you love yourself and your levels are healthy and you're a healthy, active human being that can survive and take care of your kids, and you don't need someone to wipe your ass at the age of 30 because you can't get out of bed, then, like,
that's why, like, when I was getting so much slack this year about my weight loss, whatever the case may be, like, it was, mind you, it wasn't even much. It was like a few pounds, but on a tiny person, people see it.
Right, on a smaller structure.
Exactly. Shows. But my doctor even came in and he was like, but everything on your panels, like, back in February, my blood work was like, not horrible, but not good. And I was doing the F45, I was training, you know, all of that. Now, not to say that that was the cause of it, but for my body, I was clearly doing something wrong. And the weight loss didn't affect, if anything, it was obviously null and void. My lifestyle changes, my dietary changes, the things that we're doing, I also started to do more body weight training. So I took a step back from cardio and from heavy, you know, HIIT training, because clearly it didn't work for my body type. And I restructured things, and sure enough, my health is in great, like, you know what I mean? Like,
you were just telling me when I came that one day how much more energy you have.
Oh my
and
gosh,
everything like that. So that's the other thing that people don't understand is it's not just aesthetic. It's literally like you taking in too much sugar just doesn't make you bloated and make you retain everything. It makes your inflammation increase. That's why your joints feel like shit. That's why when you're going to work out,
talk about
like
sugar.
shit.
And I just have to say this because this is something too that I know I touched on that day with you when we were talking about doing the, you know, candida overgrowth and SIBO and all those things that affect your gut health. And your gut, guys, is so important. Like, it affects your immune system. Like, your gut health and your immune system are, like, linked
Yeah.
So like even with everything with COVID and, you know, whatever.
It's attached to your brain.
It is attached. So you talk about vitamin C and zinc. It is so important to be taking a prebiotic, a probiotic, and worrying about the inflammation that's going on. Like, you know, it's so taboo to talk about gut health, but it's so important. And one of the biggest things, so doing that cleanse, right? And I talked about sugar that day, but guys, sugar isn't the enemy. So when you think about sugar, you have to think about your fiber content. So when you're looking at, like, say, for instance, something that your friend was eating, that sugary, I don't even know if
artificial sugary everything.
So that's different because that's going to affect your insulin levels, your glycemic index, completely different than, let's say, an orange or a
natural
strawberry.
Sugars.
Because a natural sugar, the difference is the fiber content that's linked to that sugar. So that fiber will mitigate the spike in insulin. So that's why, like, we demonize, we think keto, we think all these things, which is fine, because I think keto is good in the sense of it helps women understand, like, don't eat processed food, like eat like
whole foods,
which is why keto works, right? Well, majority of people, but then, like, obviously get off keto and then things change because they're no longer eating whole foods, they're eating processed foods again. It's really the processed food guys that are you should demonize.
It's not natural sugar, it's just artificial sugar.
Yeah. But the thing is, when you talk about fiber content, so like resistant starches, like a potato, if you know your glycemic index, a potato is never going to affect your weight or affect the way, say, a box of Cheerios would, right? Because, and even though Cheerios are fortified and they put all this stuff in it to make it better for you, a whole potato will have so much fiber in it that it will never give you that, like, initial, like, spike. You know, over time, if you're eating only potatoes, you know what I mean? But, like, you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
like,
no, I do.
So fiber and sugar are definitely, like, linked.
Yeah, fiber is also going to be that piece that helps you get rid of what your body doesn't use.
Yes.
So that's the biggest thing, is like
it pushes out all the toxins.
It pushes out everything. And I have a lot of girls who, I think I went to say this earlier, but there's a lot of girls who I train who you would never think have bad relationships with food. They seem like they have it together. But for whatever reason, this past month after class, like every single one by one, all of them stop and stay with me for about 40 minutes just to talk about eating habits. And I try to
9 out of 10. 10 out of 10. I don't think I've ever had a woman sit in my chair
that's not with
that doesn't have an issue with their body.
Right. And it's not so much that they have an eating disorder, but it's just a relationship
disorderly
with
eating.
food.
I call it disorderly eating.
It's just a relationship with food. And I always try to explain nutrition and eating as let's pretend that you have, like, little elves that are in your stomach and you're digestive. You eat something and they, like, break it all down. They're like, okay, where can we send this in your body that it's going to be useful? So, I got some protein here and I'm going to send it over to the muscles here. I got some fat over here. I'm going to send it up to your brain here. And then they have shit. They're like, we don't really have a job for this. So we're going to push it over to the side here. If you have that fiber in your diet, it's helping them just like, okay, we can push you out. Okay,
35 grams to 45 grams a day, guys. Not even your 25. It should really be focused. And when you focus on a plant-based food, like whole food diet approach, like in the sense of, I always say, like, you don't have to completely cut out animal protein. That was something I had to do because of that issue. I was having a hard time breaking it down, right? Yeah. So knowing your gut microbiome, knowing what your gut is, like, I always say this, like, knowing your intolerances, right? Yeah. If you deal with leaky gut or candida or any of that, you will have autoimmune deficient or issues and whatever. But there was something you said too, and I wanted to touch on it. It was what we do, our body type. So how many women do you know that say, my husband can go on a diet for 30 seconds and lose like 20 pounds, but then because it's our metabolism and it's restrictive, that binge restrict, cycle of going on these crazy diets and limiting your calorie intake. And that's why you do reverse dieting, right? Yeah. So that you cut down, you lose weight, and then you reverse diet, you bring the calories back up so people don't fear the caloric overload, right? Yeah. So those things are so important, and that it's this way of it's like what we were predispositioned to on social media, like, you have to starve yourself in order to maintain, a proper figure or whatever goal figure you want. It's not the case.
No, you have to eat for your body.
You have to eat. Oh my God, to be continued. I feel like I need to come on every week.
No, you're going to have to come back again because we're already at way past the normal time that we are. Yeah. So we are going to finish up with Nikki's just overall statement that she wants to reiterate to you guys, and if you have zoned out after an hour and 20 minutes, which I don't know how you have because we've been in it this whole time. But Nikki's going to leave us on her final thought, and then she's definitely going to have to come back again because we need to talk more about all the shit that we didn't even get to. I told you it was going to happen.
Once you guys get to fitness, I'm like, I'm just learning so much.
I know. I have so much. The health and fitness stuff is like, honestly, as a makeup artist, it's so crazy, guys, because I feel like as passionate as I am about like I've said, I spent the first 20 years of my life helping you look beautiful. Now I want to help you feel it.
Right.
Like all those women that came to you and say, like, I literally want to touch those women and be like, talk to me.
Yes.
Because I've been there, you know, I've had a bad relationship with my body. You know, I've had that cancer was my wake up call. You know, that tumor was my wake up call. And not to say that I still don't struggle, and I'm okay to admit that. Like, I'm okay to say that there's times that I still have a hard time, but my last or leading or final thought is to love yourself, is to literally 2021, let this be the year to the love you're looking for, like, let it happen within yourself. You know, like, one of the big thing with counseling was, in order for you to find who you're looking for, you need to become who you're looking for. So I think becoming that person that we're so eagerly trying to seek out in a relationship or relationship with food or whatever, love yourself. Love yourself.
Yeah, so to finish with, I just want to reiterate something that Nikki said also. We're bringing in 2021, ladies. We are forgiving ourselves from our past, but we're not forgetting what led us to those bad nights that we had, bad decisions, bad feelings that we had towards ourselves. So forgive yourself. Let's move the fuck on, but don't forget what got you those sparks.
Yes.
Let's fucking take it back.
Yes. Not today, Satan. Not in 2021.
Today, Satan. Stay
not
out of
your
2000.
year. Maybe 2020 was your year, but not this one.
Not this year. All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Again, this has been probably our longest episode, but I've really been wanting Nikki on here for a while because she has so much to give. So we're going to have to bring her back on.
Yeah.
Thanks to our sponsors.
Glow Commando, FT Performance Lab.
No Windy Sleeves.
No Windy Sleeves.
Later, guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.